Ramakrishna-Vivekananda Center. And last 1 week we are hearing, practically every day engaged him. So I am still sure that he has got many more points to tell, and even stories probably. So Swami Adiswarananda, the topic is restless, facing the restless mind. This will be his last talk here, and tomorrow in Vivekananda House, Sunday in Santa Barbara, and then he goes back on Monday. All right.
Thank you, Swamiji, for again introducing me to the devotees. By the time probably I am already known, or maybe I am boring the devotees. But today would be the year last in Hollywood at this time. Then we go to Pasadena House and Santa Barbara. Then we return. The topic is facing the restless mind. First, the role of the mind in the human life. The human individual is dependent on mental strength. There are three kinds of strength spoken of: physical, mental, spiritual. So our human beings are dependent on physical strength, muscular. Human beings are on mental strength. And saints and holy men on spiritual strength. In Sanskrit they are called Bahubalam, Buddhibalam, Dharmabalam. And on this strength of mind everything depends. Survival, success, fulfillment, peace and everything. When the mind is well, everything goes well. When it goes wrong, everything goes wrong. So an ancient proverb says, "He who is the master of his mind is a sage, and who is a slave to it is a fool." And the modern adage also echoes the same. A man who loses his mind is usually the last to miss it. But there are views with regard to what is the nature of the mind. Some maintain it is the byproduct of body and bodily process. They explain the mind and its functions in terms of nerves and glands. For them, poetic inspiration is caused by nervous stimulation. Spiritual experiences are due to glandular excitement. Depression, pessimism result from a damaged liver or a depleted bank balance, and the so-called spirit of renunciation and dispassion is a symptom of disordered colon. Variation of serotonin in the brain can make a person criminal or peace-loving. There are others who are of opinion that mind is a byproduct of heredity. According to them, a child inherits at birth a portion of the parents' minds. It is the genetic makeup that determines the nature of the mind of the individual. The pattern of the composition of the chromosomes makes a difference in the character and behavior of an individual. Then again, third view, mind is a tabula rasa, a passive recorder of impressions, and its nature depends not upon the nature of his body, brain or heredity, but upon social environment. Unstable upbringing, violent social environment that can turn a healthy-minded person to a criminal. There is another view that mind is a series of conscious bodily processes that appears to be continuous. The views that the mind is a secretion of glands and nerves makes a person nothing more than a stimulus response mechanism. The theory that hereditary transmission of the mind of the parents to the children makes the parents lose their bits of minds. A lady who has many children, she lost most of her mind. The third view cannot explain the inborn talents and inequalities between one person and another. The fourth view, that takes the knowing self as the mind, but the mind and its changes are observable experiences of a person which indicate there is another dimension of a person which is changeless. The four views are four major Western views. Vedanta view is different. It says mind serves as a working self or the ego self of a person. There is another self behind the mind which monitors its movements, its changes, its rise and fall. Though closely connected with the body, mind is independent of it. The functions of the mind are four: deliberation, determination, eye consciousness, and recollection. The seat of the mind is the heart, but it pervades the entire body and joins with one or more sense organs at the same time. For example, I can see and also I can talk. Mind is our second body, subtle body. A human individual has three bodies. The gross is used in the waking, the subtle in the dream, the causal in the deep sleep. The gross body is an extension of the mind. There is much wisdom in the saying, the face is the index of the mind. The gross body is the facade. Freud told us long ago. The mind is the interior. Both mind and body are material by nature. Like the gross body, it is made of five gross elements: earth, air, ether, water, fire. The gross body borrowed its power and consciousness from the mind. Mind borrows them from the knowing self. Mind is a product of food. The food we take, gross part goes as excrement, middle part goes to form the blood, and the subtle part goes to form the mind. The individual body, individual mind, and the individual souls have their counterparts: cosmic body, cosmic mind, and the cosmic soul. Mind is not destroyed with the destruction of the body. It is a receptacle of memories of the past lives, technically known as sanskaras. It transmigrates from one cycle of life to another, carrying with it the memories and impressions of the past. Each person is born with a blueprint of his or her own mind, and that blueprint makes a difference between one person and another. That is why each person perceives the world differently. The sense perceptions of sight, sound, touch, taste, smell are brought to the mind, which interprets them according to the inbuilt conditionings of the individual mind, and the responses vary. A human individual's world is in his mind. His birth and death, pain, pleasure, sufferings and joys are in the mind. Mind serves for the individual as a reporter, interpreter, guide, friend and foe and advisor. Mind has three levels: subconscious, conscious, superconscious. The subconscious is like the hidden part of the mind, like the iceberg. What we know about ourselves, the conscious part, the tip of the iceberg. 3/4 submerged, not viewed and perceived by us. The conscious is like the front, subconscious is like the backyard. Conscious is like the steering of an automobile, subconscious is like the propulsion. There is a third level which is superconscious, where the individual mind finds connection with the cosmic mind. Mind is subject to three modifications of nature, being material. Three are inertia, tranquility, passion, designated by the three terms in the Bhagavad Gita: tamas, rajas, sattva. Tamas overpowers the mind with dullness, rajas with passion, sattva with tranquility. Tamas darkens the mind, rajas agitates it, sattva brings serenity. Tamas brings non-perception of reality. Rajas, distorted perception. Sattva, clear perception. Each individual represents a specific balance of the three gunas. They are changing all the time. By our behavior, by our food, by our conduct and thinking, we are constantly manipulating that balance. That's why sometimes we feel inertia, sometimes feel agitated, sometimes feel tranquil. Depending upon the preponderance of one or the other, makes a variation in the personality. This guna balance determines our character, religious belief, liking of food and clothes, in dress and general disposition. To give you a little idea, in matters of character, a person of tamas or predominantly guided by inertia is careless, slovenly, inefficient. A rajasic person is domineering, calculating, ostentatious, while a person of sattva is calm, steady, and unostentatious. In matters of religious belief, a person who is of predominantly tamasic nature is superstitious, narrow, whimsical. A rajasic type is bigoted, superficial, conceited. A sattvic, universal, tolerant, and all-loving. In matters of food, a tamasic person likes food that is ill-cooked, unclean, stale, leftover. A rajasic person likes food that is excessively bitter, hot, sour, salty, acrid, and dry, while a sattvika person likes food that promotes health, strength, substantial, and agreeable in moderate amounts. In dress, a tamasic person is careless, disproportionate, uncouth. Rajasic person chooses dress that is gaudy, exciting, immodest. A sattvika person prefers dress that is modest, simple, and dignified. By following the line of sattva in matters of habits, dress, food, conduct, one can alter the guna balance and therefore structure of the mind. For example, a tamasika person is highly inefficient, dull. There is a little story that a person was looking for a job. He answered an ad. Then the interviewer said that, we are looking for a responsible person. He said, if that is the case, you need me. I worked in 10 places beforehand. Wherever anything went wrong, they said I was responsible. So another example, that how did you do so many mistakes in one day? The boss asked him. He said, I get up very early. That is. So those are. Then you will find a rajasika person is very nervous. I can tell you a little nervous story. The new priest was so nervous at his first mass, he could hardly speak. Before his second appearance in the pulpit, he asked the Monsignor how he could relax. The Monsignor said, next Sunday, it may help if you put some vodka in the water pitcher instead of water. After a few sips, everything should go smoothly. The next Sunday, the new priest put the suggestion into practice and was able to take up a storm. He talked like a storm. He felt great. But upon returning to the rectory, he found a note from the Monsignor. Note said, number 1, next time you sip the vodka, not gulp. Number 2, there are 10 commandments, not 12. 3, we do not refer to the cross as big T. 4th, the recommended grace before meal is not Rabe Dub Dub, thanks for the grab, yeah God. 5, there are 12 disciples, not 10. 6, do not refer to our Savior Jesus Christ and his disciples as Jesse and the boys. 7, David slew Goliath. He did not kick a snot out of him. 8, The Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost are never referred to as Junior, a Big Daddy, and the Holy Spook. So he got the advice, but it came like that. So these are the general. There are 5 types of mind Vedanta speaks of. Dull, excited, scattered, concentrated, and suspended. The first 3 are unfit, weak, and sick. They are not at all fit for spiritual culture. Such minds are wasteful, divided, self-destructive, and therefore unhealthy. Mind experiences rise and fall. Both Yoga and Vedanta says, you have studied the 6 centers of consciousness. When it moves upward, the same world appears homogeneous, united, unified. And same world, mind, when it goes down to the lower planes, it gives signals of gross enjoyments, eating, sleeping, and procreating. The mind rises higher and higher, eventually goes beyond the 6 centers. But most important contribution of Vedanta is, it says, basic movement of the mind is upward. Meditation is a natural condition of the mind. Left to itself, it will move upward. Because of the obstructions and drags, it goes downward. So therefore, that is the natural flow of the mind, cosmocentric. A person is bad because unable to be good. Person is addicted to sense pleasures because it never tasted better pleasure and better enjoyment. Mind is the root cause of all sufferings. Vedanta says 5 causes. First is the ignorance which blocks and distorts the vision of reality, exaggerated eye consciousness that polarizes mind into 2, deep attachment which expresses itself in the form of possession and possessiveness, and then strong aversion that seeks the pleasurable, avoids the painful, then clinging to life, which is the inability to change, move forward and onward. Tranquility of the mind is vital for our survival and success. But mind by nature is restless. Bhagavad Gita uses very strong epithets. It is restless, turbulent, powerful, obstinate. Some others said stupid and stubborn in its stupidity. Carried along by the waves of impulses, darkened by imaginations, unable, fickle, full of desires, it is constant prey to delusion and fancies. It is always changing. The mind, the proverb says, is the mad elephant Swami Vivekananda described. Shankaracharya describes the mind as a huge tiger. In the Crestule of Discrimination, Viveka Chudamani Shankaracharya says, in that forest tract of sense pleasures there prowls a huge tiger called mind. Let no good people go there. Swami Vivekananda describes a mad monkey, drunken and stung by scorpions. Srimad Bhagavatam, another text says, mind is like a woman with many forms. We find that the restless mind behaves in generally 2 extreme ways. It is either defensive or aggressive, dominating or clinging, excited or scattered, having no confidence or overconfident, suicidal or homicidal. You must remember, most cases where a criminal murdered or become violent, always in the newspaper you will say, oh, he was so quiet. We never saw him doing anything. He was so sober. When suicidal means I'll kill myself, homicidal I'll kill others. When it is moving in 2 ways. And that is a significant thing. The same mind which is depressed, wanting to commit suicide, the same mind will prompt the another person to do violent activities. It is discontented, divided, dependent, deluded. It is unstable, easily bored with anything, looks for novelty, with a high level of anxiety, is hypersensitive, has low frustration tolerance. Mental restlessness manifests in emotionally charged speech. You'll find people talking. There was a war veteran. He came back. One day his little son asked him, he said, "Dad, what's the difference between handgun and machine gun?" He said, "You know, when I talk to you, that is handgun. But when your mother talks to me, that is machine gun." So that is, he said. Then we find lack of concentration. From the point of view of gunas, it is dominated by inertia or passion. Mind is restless because it is weak. It is weak because it is impure. It is impure because it has become a slave to the body and mind, senses. That is saying weak body commands, strong body obeys. So also, weak mind commands and strong mind obeys. Impurities are psychic deposits of past indulgent living. They are not mere thoughts. When repeated and prolonged, they strike roots in our body, affect our blood, glands and hormones, and become habits. They are called sanskaras, which is another major contribution of Vedanta. Causes of restlessness are not of the same intensity. Sanskaras cannot be overcome by mere reason and analysis. Reason is too weak to overcome ingrained habits. Time cannot erase them. Distance cannot annihilate them. Old age does not lessen their fury. Change of place and diet cannot uproot them. There are usual responses to this question of restlessness are two: pampering or punishing. Pampering the desires, some try by this to overcome restlessness. Pampering constitutes giving in. But pampering eventually becomes suicidal. It is false psychology that says we can overcome our mind by pampering desires. Desires are like flames of fire, they burn. When there is nothing to be burned, it can burn the container, the mind itself. There are those who maintain that control in any form brings inhibition, engenders pessimism, neurosis, and other worldly attitudes, and makes a person unauthentic and unnatural. For them, you will find self-expression stands for freedom, spontaneity, naturalness. They live as they like, they sleep as much as they can, they eat whatever they like to eat. It is like the Roman said that my husband is in a seafood diet. Whatever food he sees, he eats. Any limit is considered curtailment of freedom. They equate self-expression with slavery, addiction with liking, passion with reason, whimsicality and spontaneity. They forget that giving in to the dictates of the wild impulses is not expression. The joy of life springs from freedom, and freedom means control. Unrestrained desires and unbridled gratification of the libidinal urges only lead to disintegration. There are others who try to punish the mind by practice of severe austerities and mortification. They are hardliners. They try to overcome restlessness by punishing the mind. By punishing the mind, the desires and impulses and urges are driven either underground or to the background. Such repression heightens the awareness of the objects desired and create personality disorder, neurosis. Then, when the body gets old, the mind returns with vengeance, can ambush the person later on, the wild impulses. There are still others who try to escape restlessness of the mind by changing places, by withdrawal. Such withdrawal makes the situation worse. Those who withdraw out of fear or frustration are only pursued by that restlessness. Sometimes they go into a monastery or a convent, but they find that the situation has become worse. The more you run away from the mind, the more you will be pursued by it. Restlessness can manifest the personality disorder, and I said delusion. Neurosis is kind of nothing new, only a new term. Dreaming, imagining. They said neurotic builds castles in the air. The psychotic lives in that castle. And the psychiatrist gets rent from both. That is. Then neurosis can bring, like, what is your worst sin? The pastor asked. My vanity. I spend hours before the mirror admiring my beauty. The pastor said, that is not vanity, my dear, that is imagination. Then it is said, sometimes it can bring anger. Anger blocks the vision, it's like a vapor. Angry man wrote the following letter. Sir, my stenographer, being a lady, cannot type what I think of you. I, being a gentleman, cannot think it. You, being neither, will understand what I mean. That is a polite, angry language. Then it is said, the husband said, and you tell me several men proposed marriage to you. Husband does. Yes, several, the wife replied. Well, I wish you had married the first fool who proposed. Wife said, I did. So these are what you call the neurosis, and all these things, they come. Sometimes it can make a person too much egotistic and thinking. A city slicker came to a country, and the farmers, he thought these farmers are not educated enough. And to test him, he said, did you see a truckload of monkeys passing by? Farmer said, no. Did you fall off? He said, did you fall off from the truck? So that is, or it does not give a person clear understanding. It makes foggy. A man was driving in the highway, freeway, truckload of penguins. They can, even if they understand the scriptures and the books, they won't understand. So anyway, the penguins were to be taken to the zoo. The truck broke down. All the penguins came out, moving around. Another truck came by, said, can I help? He said, this is the situation, can you take these penguins to the zoo? So he said, I'll do it. He took them. Then meanwhile, he repaired his truck and stayed in the small town overnight. Next day he came for eating in a restaurant. And to his surprise and horror, he saw the same truck with the penguins also there. He said, you didn't take them to the zoo? He said, yes, I took them to the zoo yesterday. Today I am going to take them to the theater. He understood by the meaning what it means. Then an inertia person, he has what do you call an example, that his stipplings or dispositions are different at different times. Gave the example, jocose, morose, bellicose, lachrymose and comatose. That is the person of inertia. Then another person, he will say, he said, he's bragging, only 10 people understand Einstein. I am so brilliant, nobody understands me. I am bigger than Einstein. He made a meaning out of that. So whatever is the situation, that way to overcome, Vedanta says that by control and regulation. Control does not come as a windfall, never. Those who think that mind by itself will come someday, they are like those fools going to the ocean side, thinking waves to subside, and then they will take a dip. It cannot be done vicariously, miraculously, which so often we think. Then there are 4 steps toward this overcoming. First is called self-acceptance. It is accepting the responsibility of restlessness. We always look for scapegoat, blame others, country, weather, town, city, people, parents. Even psychology teaches us to blame our parents. So long as we blame others, control of mind will be a far cry. Self-acceptance is accepting what we are, not what we wish for. By accepting our limitations and imperfections, we become true to ourselves. Swami Vivekananda says, from our childhood, all the time we have been trying to lay blame upon something outside. We're always standing up to set right other people, not ourselves. If we are miserable, we say, oh, the world is the devil's world. We curse others, say, what ungrateful fools. But why should we be in such a world if we are really so good? If this is a devil's world, we must also be devils. True enough. If you are tranquil, calm, why, how can little Jack and Jenny, they can come and throw you off the balance? Lack of self-acceptance is the cause of despair, self-pity, hopelessness. When one tries to be different from one's true nature and imitate another person's result is frustration. There is a humorous story. A person, Mr. Jones by name, suffering from inferiority complex, was visiting a psychoanalyst for several years with no result achieved. Finally, one day when the patient arrived for the session, the analyst told him, Mr. Jones, at last I've been able to make a breakthrough in your problem. You have no inferiority complex. You are inferior. A person without any moral scruple, the frail youth, discounts athletics. You will find a sickly man, you always will criticize athletics. Oh, these are no good. A person without any moral scruple brands the self-controlled people as prudes. A person lacking in intellectual ability scorns intellectuals as highbrows. Obstacles and imperfections are things to overcome, not bypassed, rationalized or ignored. A limitation or deficiency, when accepted with a positive attitude of mind, becomes a driving force for self-fulfillment. Demosthenes, probably you know, was a stammerer, but that did not prevent him from being a great orator. Napoleon was 5'2" and a quarter inches tall and 43rd in his class at the military school. Yet he became the Napoleon of history. Beethoven was not only deaf but also had explosive temper. It is said that once, seeing a sleeping coachman comfortably snoring, he exclaimed, I wish I were as stupid as that fellow. Yet it was not the sleeping coachman but Beethoven who created great music. Self-acceptance, when it is accepted, the obstacles instead of being limitation can become a strong driving propulsion for improvement. The second aspect is control. It is gaining mastery over the unruly mind, wayward senses, and out-of-control body and bodily habits. This control comes not by itself. You have to make it happen. Bhagavad Gita gives us 2 ways, dispassion and practice. Abhyasa, vairagya. Well, the 2 give us 2-way practices. Structural practice, foundational practice. And also the 4 yogas, they embody these practices. Dispassion is a wrong word. Often we think that it is negative. Actually, it is far from that. Dispassion is withdrawing, withstanding the intensities of the wild impulses and urges. Bhagavad Gita says, who is a yogi? The word has been used, begodharan, one who can withstand the impulses. A yogi is like a rock of Gibraltar. Waves and impulses are falling on it, but he can keep them under control. It releases the mind from its bondage of physical body. It requires pure diet, assimilation, mind to exercise dispassion, mental exercise and rest. That is, we do not have our mind exercised. Like body, mind can be flabby, fat, weak. It can have its high mental cholesterol deposits and all these things. It is said that moral vigor depends upon moral exercise. A humorous anecdote says the only exercise most people get is jumping at conclusions, running down their friends, sidestepping responsibility and pushing their luck. These are the exercises they do. Practice of dispassion heightens willpower, determination to pursue the goal. A person with this dispassion will not give up, will not quit under any circumstances. If he cannot run, he will walk. If he cannot walk, he will crawl, but he will not stop under any circumstances. It opens up the springs of faith and hope. Control of mind is beset with many problems. The four yogas they give us. Now, why dispassion, which is foundational practice? You'll find in the path of jnana or knowledge, Shankaracharya says four disciplines. In Patanjali's yoga, jnana niyama. In path of devotion, you will find Ramanuja gives us viveka, vimoha, anavasado and so forth. Those are ground rules. When you go to control, one is you guard the rear. The old habits will come back. Other is to go forward. Dispassion takes care of the rear. Even in military logistics, you guard the rear and move toward the front. That is called, the structural practice, the foundational practice. Structural practices of prayer, contemplation, japa, meditation, control of breath and so forth. The four yogas, they give us four methods. The path of Jnana Yoga said persuasion. Persuade the mind to give up the old ways by giving the negative side. It is a kind of auto-suggestion. Through reading of scripture, hearing of discourses, that Bhagavad Gita says, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Dosanu, Darshanam. These are the minus points. Mind picks up. You might say, well, I read, but will the mind listen? Mind has a habit of picking up. If you daily give suggestion, it will pick up. To tell you another story little. A couple one day found that basement was flooding, called for the plumber. And you know, when you call for the plumber, they do not come on time. So they waited. Finally, they went to a neighboring house for a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, the plumber arrived with his toolbox. The couple had a parakeet in the house, talking parakeet. And the couple taught the parakeet, whenever doorbell rang, who is this? So the plumber rang the bell. He heard, who is this? Plumber said, I'm the plumber. Minutes passed. Again he rang, who is this? I'm the plumber. You called. Again, 15-20 minutes gone. Again he rang, who is this? This time the plumber got so frustrated and angry that he fainted, and heart attack he had. Meanwhile, the couple came back. They saw somebody lying down in front of his room. Who is this? The parakeet said, it's the plumber. So the mind picks up by the time the parakeet picked up. So Jnana Yoga says, you persuade the mind. By convincing the intellect, which is the leader of the faculties of the mind will withdraw. which is being called discrimination between the real and unreal, dispassion, Shankaracharya's fourfold disciplines. Then the group of 6 virtues, essence of which is self-control, and intense longing for truth, with the cooperation of the mind. Second method is eradication with the path of karma yoga. Ego is the problem. You eradicate the ego, throw it overboard. Path of devotion says that purification. Mind is restless because it is impure. Impure because it is eating impure diet. Diet is not just what you eat. Ramanuja says diet is what we eat. Food also can be tamasic or sattvic or rajasic. Shankaracharya says no, food is not just what you eat, but anything which you draw through your sense organs as enjoyment, that is also food. We take care of the physical food which we eat through mouth, but we are drawing constantly through the eyes as sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Those are also food. That food, when it is impure, impure means which heightens body awareness. Pure means that heightens soul awareness, that reduces body awareness. So therefore, food must be pure. So by pouring pure thoughts constantly, mind becomes impure thoughts automatically come out. There is a story that in India, in a village, there were some young folks, they were having a festival. They fixed a room, no windows. And they brought a billy goat there. I believe you know billy goat, which smells very bad. Anybody who can spend the whole night with the billy goat in that windowless room will get 500 rupees as a reward. So many people lined up. There came a person from northwestern frontier province. Generally they do not take bath for centuries. They do not change, they smell. So he also lined up. Generally they are money-minded, they lend money, money lenders. He thought, well, 500 rupees. He also lined up. So each one, young folks go, within 10 minutes comes out. It's impossible to stay there. Some stay for half an hour, some for 1 hour. Finally, when this man went, the billy goat came out. Because he was so smelly. So Bhakti Yoga says, you pour pure thought. You won't have to extra to do anything. Raja Yoga says, when persuasion has failed, eradication did not work, purification did not become possible, confront the mind. So persuasion, eradication, purification and confrontation. Confrontation is the method of Raja Yoga's Patanjali. He says, life is short. Half of it is wasted in sleep. Childhood goes in pranks, youth in pursuit of romanticism, middle age in chewing the cud, old age thinking of the death. Then 10 years in brushing the teeth, 10 years standing against a red light, 15 years standing before the mirror. So therefore, very nothing left. If we are to wait for the mind to be persuaded, it is much of it is gone. Then, so therefore, mind is a bull, and bull is a bull. To expect the bull to be civilized, it is like one is waiting, feeding a tiger vegetarian food, hoping that it will be non-violent. That's the foolish psychology. You confront the bull. Get the bull by the horn. So it brings it, apart from reason and devotional exercises, it's breath control. Control of breath, posture. Both subjective and objective method they apply. But Vedanta says that should be the confrontation with the mind, must be the last resort, because it has too many risks. Bull can wound you, You can wound the bull. You need the bull. With the help of the bull, you will get out of the bull. With the help of the mind, you get out of the mind. So therefore, you cannot damage it. Or the bull can give you such a what you call push. You may be in the 6 months in the hospital. So therefore, risk is there. So when all other methods have failed, the roots of restlessness are deep. There is no other way. You know, when the restless mind is noticed and measured in the breath, if the breath is flowing in one of the, generally breath does not evenly flow. If it is mostly on the left side, then mind is in the lower centers. It's dull, engrossed in gross desires. If it is the right, usually mind is highly agitated. When the breath is even, you will find even if there is no reason, you are almost in heaven. Because by some time, mind is all the time going like that. By controlling the breath, you induce tranquility in the system. That is the method. If, due to restlessness, my speech is becoming emotionally charged, my breath becoming uneven, my postures are trembling, you will find a postures also. Restless person, you will visible that he is shaking. Normal person also vibrating. A difference between a dead person and a living person is in a dead person there is no vibration. A living person vibrates. Then living person, the restless person, sometimes it becomes too deep. His monologue becomes expressed. He talks. You can see a person talking. So whatever it is, that if these are the symptoms, the physical movement, speech, breath, these are effects. By controlling the effect, I can control the cause. That is the basic psychology. So that is the, what you call, last being said. Each one has its reason. The path of knowledge says, intellect is the reason. Ignorance cannot be overcome by any other means. Unreason can be overcome by reason. The method of what you call eradication of ego says, ego cannot be eradicated by itself. You thin the ego. Bhakti Yoga says that method, mind becomes tranquil when it is purified. To cleanse anything we need detergent and water. Moral rest and sorbet detergent, holy thoughts as water. The path of Karma Yoga says the eradication of ego through the practice of non-attachment. It is said both ego and egg are no good until they are broken. Third aspect is called self-regulation. It is extremely dangerous to practice control and dispassion without directing the mind to the higher goal. The basic psychology, that a restless mind is a victim of many thoughts, countless thoughts. The technique is you deliberately, consciously cultivate one single thought. Through repeated practice every day, you feed it, nourish it, make it fat and big and strong. When other thoughts appear, this thought also will appear. And this thought will take care of the other thoughts. So Swami Vivekananda says that in one place, that don't be nervous when the restless thoughts are coming. Cultivate this one single thought. A day will come when the millions of distracting thoughts will appear as devils, million devils. You will find this one thought will be like an angel, will fight all these millions of devilish thoughts single-handed. So that is the basic, what you call, psychology. So huge one single thought you cultivate. That is exactly what you do through meditation, japa, posture. Sitting in the same seat, keeping the same time, concentrating on the same subject, following the same methodology, you follow that, it becomes a power. mind gradually forms a path. An uncontrolled mind is like a lake. Distracting thoughts are like pebbles that are falling on it. Control and regulation must be practiced simultaneously. Without regulation, control is negative, inhibitive. And without control, regulation is meaningless, ineffective, and useless. The logic for control and regulation is compelling. If a person is all muscle and metabolism, humors and hormones, then he can never escape death. Again, if he is nothing more than his wild impulses and emotions, he can never get rest. And if he is all desire, he will ever remain unfulfilled. So Vedanta asserts that he is the knowing self. He is the master of his body and mind, not their slave. The self is the core of existence. To ignore it, neglect it, is the surest way to doom and disintegration. It is the willpower of the mind that has brought this life principle to reach the human stage. Life is a rebellion against the forces of nature. So therefore, assert your higher nature. Do not run away. Face the brute. In Swami Vivekananda's life, in Benares it happened. In Benares, there is a temple where large monkeys are there. You may be in devotion, closed eyes, meditating. Your pocketbook will be gone. And the monkey will sit on the top of a tree. Unless you buy food and drop that near the tree, he will not release your bag. You can see that even how they are promoting business. So the monkeys, if you go to tell them, they will chase you. Swami Vivekananda in wandering days, when he said some monkeys were chasing him, at one point he ran. A holy man said, "Stop, face the brute." He turned around, faced, the monkeys retreated. We always run out of fear. Vedanta says, no evil thought crossed your mind in the past without your permission. You hosted them. And being a good host, you fed them. Now they have become your permanent house guest. How can you drive them? Now all of a sudden you say, I have become a saint. Your thoughts do not understand. They wait. Maybe you will change his mind. He is a little angry now. So they wait, hang around. So in a way you hosted them. Same way you have to be a bad host. Then they will understand that now you are no longer their host. That is the whole process. The reason for practice, the fourth step is moderation. Mind cannot be brought under control all of a sudden. Human nature cannot be hurried. Old habits die hard. If you take a hard line, it will bring severe reaction. And if you take a soft line, you can be resistant to your practice. Probably you know there are many diseases, they become drug resistant. If you take antibiotic, the doctors say you have to maintain a level for 10 days. If you do not take, then the what you call bacteria, they become resistant to the antibiotic. Similarly, if you do only minimum spiritual practice, Guru said 108. He will never, by mistake, even do 109. He said 108, half a glass of water, 5 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, and he is expecting maximum result doing minimum practice. So minimum practice can make your practices, your impurities can be highly resistant to meditation. They can withstand your practice and still dominate. So therefore, you have to maintain a regular high dosage of practice so that they do not become, resistant. So therefore, it must be just right. Moderation is followed so that you do not evoke any reaction, revenge from your body and mind. They resist. Sometimes they become angry. So you have to, don't wake up the unrestrained sleeping giant sleeping. Don't go to wrestle with the giant on the first day. You build up your muscle and strength. So bit by bit, in the first few rounds, you will have defeat. You will be bruised. You will be bloodied. But someday, somewhere, you will have to confront it. Better do it when you are young, strong, vigorous. But before that, you build up your strength. You have your retinue. Old habit can be countered by a habit, and bad thought by a counter back good thought. A old wrong posture with a good posture. You must fight each one at different level. This is Patanjali's famous technique of pratipaksha bhavana. Pratipaksha means counter. Often we try to feel tranquility sitting in the prayer room. But many of the habits, they require actual practice and activity also. To give you an example, if you do not come to this chapel for 100 years, you enter. Generally we come with a vacuum cleaner. After 100 years I came here. I came with a vacuum cleaner. Already 7 feet high, the dust. Lower layers have become rocks. If you come after 100 years, simply your vacuum cleaner will not do. You have to come with a vacuum cleaner, with a chisel, with a hammer, with little minor dynamites. Because layers are there. Most people, they say, sitting in the prayer room, he is trying to combat the tendencies. Some have gone into the root. Some, even suggestion of it, your mouth may water, some of the sense organs should be excited. That means they have a root into deeper layers. Those layers, they require participation of thought, action and speech in 3. In meditation, you are doing only thought. A tendency or a sanskar is deep-rooted because 3 organs participated. So therefore, you have to act in a reverse way with countering it. There is a story that a woman was talking to another woman. The first woman married a man who had a wife before and who died. She was talking to her friend, these men, they have some bad habits. When they marry for the second time, they always talk about their past wife. Oh, she was so nice, she was so kind, she was so loving. And I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stop him. Do you know any method? He said, no, I don't know. Months passed. After that, one day she said, I found a way. I stopped him. The moment he began to talk about his past wife, I started talking about my future husband. And that stopped him altogether. Similarly, you counter it by new thought. So moderation is a virtue because it is a habit, has a 5-letter, bit by bit it became a habit. Similarly, you gain control bit by bit. Then system will not come back with a vengeance, or your practice will not evoke reaction. So Bhagavad Gita says, yoga is not for him who eats too much, for him who eats too little, it's not for him who sleeps too much, for him who sleeps too little. And all this, he must be temperate in food, recreation, in his exertion and work and sleep. Control of mind, or facing it, is completed when the proximity of the sense object do not create any ripples in your mind. How do you know that you have overcome? Proximity of the object will not be able to influence. Ripples in the mind, inside it is happening. An umbrella is tested in rain, our self-mastery in the test in times of crisis, our faith in times of doubt, our self-surrender in times of trial, our knowledge and devotion and renunciation in self-dedication. If a person, he calls that he has knowledge, but you don't find self-dedication, that is false. If you say a person has dispassion, he does not like the world, sense objects and enjoyment. But what he likes, life is not guided by what you don't like, but by what you like. If you find with knowledge there is no devotion, with dispassion there is no self-dedication, that dispassion is depression. If renunciation, with that no spirit of service, that is false, that is negative. It is control of mind is never given to us, to anybody. Those one must work for it in order to succeed. Only active efforts bring tangible results. The old story that a man, he was disturbed because his apartment was infested with mouse. He was a single man. He thought he should do something. Friends advised him better get a mouse trap. He bought a mouse trap. Then he brought that day and he wanted to set up the trap, and generally you put a piece of cheese. He found that in his refrigerator there was no cheese. He thought, well, mice are dumb creatures, they don't understand the real and the false. He took a nice picture of a cheese from a magazine and put that. Went to bed. He thought, when he woke up, he was anxious to see the result. And lo and behold, the picture of the cheese was gone. In place, picture of a mouse was there, caught up. So, you give real thing, you get real result. You make active efforts, active effort. Scriptures tell us, Kri Pa Sanskrit. Do something, you get. Knock and it shall open. Seek and ye shall find. Even a lion has to make some effort. A deer does not walk into his mouth. Little bit you have to do. So therefore, when you do, you get. It is said, we talk about it, read about it. Doing is doing, not thinking and talking. Once Einstein was asked that, sir, can you give me a mathematical formula of success? He said, X plus Y is equal to Z. Z is success. X, Y, Z is equal to success. X stands for work, Y for relaxation, rest. The interviewer asked, what is Z? He said, that is to keep your mouth shut. So here also, put into practice. An ounce of practice is more important than tons of theories. Mind, when it is faced, after all, it is your mind. It is a purely mechanical behavior. Its logistics are very reasonable, that you have to do it. And since you made your mind so restless by your indulgence, forgetfulness, what you call loss of contact with the center of your being, only you can fight it back. Only you can undo it. No other person can do it. Even if you go to a prophet and saint, he will inspire you to do it. Because if it is given to you, it will not be yours. You have to earn it. Thank you. If you have any question, please.
One about anger. Do you think there is a constructive anger and destructive anger? Because Indian literature, scriptures and other things that is true with the episodes of angry rishis, yogis and brahmans who created a lot of problem for innocent people.
These are constructive anger, assumed anger. As a parent, father and mother can pretend to be angry to teach a child. But the other is what you call involuntary anger. Anger comes, frustration from achieving a goal. You will find in the boss, he scolded the employee. He comes home and explodes on his own wife and children. They wonder why he is angry. He is looking for a scapegoat, looking for a whipping boy. So that is, he is trying to give release. tension builds up, then it finds a release. It can find release in alcoholism, drug, what you call immoderate pursuit of sex. These are all releases. Unable to find a platform of release in the upper region, it finds release in the subconscious. So therefore, constructive anger is assumed anger. But that is under control. Other anger is he has no control. Mind comes and takes over and blinds the vision.
Can I ask one more?
Please.
Could hampering of desires lead to pacification?
Yeah. It is giving in. Pampering means you gave in. You are becoming further slave to the senses. Means slave to the body. And by that way, you are, there are two ways basic, multiplication of desires and liquidation of desire, which is being called desirelessness.
That's what I was referring.
If you multiply desires, you further create trouble. Even normal person, it does not do. A wife was telling her husband, what is the best book to read about going to a best vacation? Husband thought, he said, well, there is one book which will tell you where to go. That is the checkbook. You don't need any other book. Otherwise, another person, wife told that, last night I dreamt that you bought for me a mink coat for my birthday. John, what does it mean, this dream? John said, you will understand by evening. So evening he bought a book, The Meaning of Dreams. He gave that to him. So these are anger comes from the jealousy comes that you are trying to imitate another person's quality and having a frustration. That is jealousy. Possessiveness comes. A person needs what you call, person wants to exist by making others as part of the person. It is like, they call varieties of theories are there, that he does not see that others exist. There are various technologies or techniques are their philosophies. I can read to you difference between communism, socialism, fascism, Nazism, bureaucracy, anarchy. Communism is you have two cows, the government takes both of them and gives you part of the milk. Socialism is you have two cows, the government takes one of them and gives it to your neighbor. Fascism, you have two cows, the government takes both of them and sells you the milk. Capitalism, you have two cows, you sell one of them and buy a bull. Anarchy, you have two cows, they decide you have no right to do anything with their milk and leave to form their own society. Industrialism, you have two cows, you dissect them both and figure out how to build a mill factory instead. Environmentalism is you have two cows, you recycle the milk and give it back to the cows. And democracy, you have two cows, the vote is held and they win. That is. So therefore, this is what you call this, the practicality. You need practicality, how you use different. An old man is leaving the Soviet Union, bound for Israel. He reaches the border. The guard reaches into man's bag, pulling out a bust of Lenin. What is this? Asked the guard. Don't say what is this, say who is this? The man said, this is Lenin. He made my life wonderful. I love Lenin. So the guard allowed the man to pass. The old man got to Israel. There the guard found the bust of Lenin, asked, "What is this?" The old man laughed, said, "Don't say, 'What is this?' Say, 'Who is this?' This is Lenin. He made my life a living hell. I hate Lenin." So the guard let the man pass. Then the old man finally reached his relatives and home in Israel. And while he was unpacking, his cousin found the bust. "Who is this?" Don't say, "Who is this?" Say, "What is this?" This is 10 kilograms of solid gold I brought. So so you behave with the mind that way. You'll feel disturbed when you begin to control it. All you need, conscious control. I want to meditate. I will invoke tranquility now. Ordinarily, we depend upon the weather, situation, company. No, you're supposed to invoke a mood. In order to do anything, you need mood. Mood means you prepare a climate. In the beginning, we may need a temple or a holy company to create a mood. But you must be able to create your own mood. And that requires practice. You know, when you go to a restaurant, dim light, rollicking music, you cannot read the menu chart, and that creates a mood. Then you have dinner. Then the appetizer comes, little orange juice or cranberry. Here also, you sit down, you say a prayer, breathe little, smell incense. These are all appetizers. Then you create a mood. Then you hold the rosary. Then you gradually, one after the other, you go. Man is a creature of habit. You counter one habit by another habit. And those who try, they get. That is why in the realm of religion there are so many imitations. Nobody goes empty-handed. He makes something. So that is what you call the way. And because we do not try, and we become, disappointed. Often it can be wrong practice and wrong result, but we should not be, surprised that we took a wrong step. A police officer in a small town stopped a motorist who was speeding down the main street. "But officer," the man began, "I can explain." "Just be quiet," snapped the officer. "I'm going to let you cool your heels in the jail until the chief gets back." "But officer, I just wanted to say." And officer said, "And I said to keep quiet, you are going to jail." A few hours later, the officer looked in on his prisoner and said, "Lucky for you that the chief is at his daughter's wedding. He will be in a good mood when he gets back." "Don't count on it," the man said. "I am the groom." So similarly, we can make a wrong step, but we correct it. There would be risk, but there is no gain without risk. Nothing belongs to you unless you have earned it. You get what you deserve. Before you desire, you deserve it. After all, it is your mind. You are the boss. It is supposed to be a slave to you, not you become a slave to it. But if you use the mind for running errand for drug, alcohol, mind does not trust you. You say, "No, I don't want alcohol." Mind says, "That boss is angry today." He waits. Maybe he will cool down. It is like a baby, "I won't eat." Slams the door. Then after half an hour, he hangs a sign, "Call me again." It is like that. The same way mind behaves. When you watch the mind, mind watches you. You must know. When mind knows you mean business, it won't stay with you, restlessness, even for a moment. If restlessness thoughts are hanging around you, means you have secret consent. Mind, several floors are there, intellect, emotion. Intellectually, get away, rascal. Emotions are telling, well, don't take his words seriously. Wait a few days. We have secret indulgences when both intellect and the heart, the decisive, they will no longer stay. If they are hanging around, we must be honest that we are not 100% up for the result.
One last one about suicide. Many of the gifted people commit suicide, and they are not necessarily coming from tamas tendencies.
When we say tamas, that does not mean the person is 100% tamas. When tamas means inertia has come, other two are submerged. When you say tamas, inertia means predominantly like 24 hours. Most of the time maybe person is dull, lazy. When you say sattva means three gunas are there in all persons. If you know them, you'll be a better salesman, you'll be a better preacher, you'll be a better boss. You know, if you want to, get a person do some job, if it's rajasic, you just tickle his ego. Oh, you are so great. And he will go and do everything. If you, at the inertia person, if you don't bring that activity, you say, well, it is nice to have eat in a Chinese restaurant. He will like to hear about eating, sleeping, and all these gross pleasures. He will be mightily pleased. But you cannot use these tactics with a sattvika person. He will know. So if you know, and you can relate better, if you know what is the fundamental balance or structure of the mind, you can relate that way. If you find an inertia person, you can teach him to be active. If an active person, you can teach him to be tranquil. You cannot change the ego unless you build it up. An unborn ego is like a baby. It has not come to the surface. You teach him to build up. When it is built up, then you can size it up, trim it. Thank you again.
We are very happy that Swami could come for the last 1 week. We were benefited, though I exercised him a little extra, I think, to make him talk every day, once or more than once. He has come, of course, after 15 years. So.
Only thing I finished almost all my studies. I saved some for my 2 assignments in Pasadena, probably not much needed, 20 minutes, but Santa Barbara, I have to use some of my material.
We hope that he will come again. He has got 2 centers, New York City and Thousand Park, which is open only in July and August, where Swami Vivekananda stayed for some weeks, where inspired talks are delivered. And thank you all. On a weekday, normally it is not, so many lectures are not there, that you have all come.
Most cases people make a mistake. They only follow the structural practice, japa, dhyan, meditation, but they ignore the foundational practice. The rear guard, they do not protect, the rear side. As a result, it becomes ineffective. Thank you.
We can greet here. Yeah.